So I moved into this spot summer of 2020. I love anything that has an antique look. If I buy something that's antique that I feel like doesn't really work with me, I just paint it black. Hi, my name is Reilly Mooring and welcome to my apartment. So I moved into this spot summer of 2020. And after spending 4 months locked into my previous apartment from the pandemic, I just needed to change up the space. So this spot came available on Kijiji. Essentially, it was just one long box. So it kind of gave me the challenge of figuring out what type of furniture I want to put in here, what type of areas. So the biggest obstacle with this space is that I have one closet and my washer and dryer take up at least half of it. I needed something to obviously hang clothing because I don't have anything. So I had found this on Amazon. I always thought that it was something that you had to go to like Kent or a Home Depot and like measure stuff out. With this, it's the best because now I can actually see what clothing I have. It's really just served me such a good function. I definitely need to change this because it's not fully straight. Another quality that I loved about this apartment was its original ceiling that's on a pitch. So in the front, I think I have about 12.5 feet, and then it goes down to 8 in the back. But I love the original molding that you can see, as well as all the beadboard on the top and then the exposed pipes. It's really hard to find something like that in Halifax, so I'm really fortunate to have the aesthetic that I'd like. Had this from my previous apartment, and when I moved it in here, it was its original wood, and classic me, paint it black. If I buy something that's antique or vintage that I feel like doesn't really work with me, I honestly just paint it black. So I had wanted to make it look as built-in as possible, and originally for this DIY, I had wanted to wrap wood with just contact paper that had the marble pattern. But when I was at Kent one day, I found all of these marble door treads. All of a sudden they ended up in my cart, and then they ended up in my apartment, and they look way better than something I could have made. So I find a lot of my frames from Value Village, different thrift stores, and different businesses. I mean, I've collected some from literally just the side of the road, but this one was from just Value Village, and I bought it for like 20 bucks, and the mat had been originally forest green, and if you just get a sample pot of paint from any big box store, you can just quickly paint the mat, reframed it, and it looks better than it being like a $13 poster. I'm a big supporter of leaning mirrors, leaning art, partially because I don't have the confidence to actually hang any of it. So these were actually just from a renovation that I found on Kijiji. And I mean, mirrors this size can get quite expensive, and I was fortunate enough to get 2. But I just took the hardware off. So I took off the doorknob, and then there was a pulley track system on the bottom. With this, I do get a little bit of space behind to hide my junk and things that I don't want to see. I do like pretending I live in a showroom at all times, but throwing stuff behind this, you would never know. This is where I watch a lot of Housewives, like too much. If you're close with me, you know that this arrangement switches every 3 to 4 days. I can't commit on a furniture layout for the life of me, so I'm constantly arranging everything that I own. This is one piece that I've had since like grade 11, I think. And I had watched a TikTok DIY that made it seem a lot easier and cheaper than I thought it was going to be. $200 later on Amazon, I was finally done the DIY. But it was a frame that my grandmother had bought, so why throw something out when it was doing a great service? I just needed to update it and paint it black. These chairs turned out to be one of my favorite marketplace wins. When I had bought them, they had this crazy pattern on the bottom, and I was like, yeah, eventually I'll get it reupholstered. And then one night, I just was like, I'm gonna see what's underneath them. And I ripped it off, and I found that it was just this plain gray, which completely works for my space. For an antique find, I think it's a great win. This ottoman was another DIY. It was my mother's from Pier 1 Imports like 100 years ago. The top design constantly changes. So this is really nothing that I have actually secure. It's just rolled over the original, and then I just changed it up every few days. It's all smoke and mirrors. Let it be. This sofa's gotta go. I love this sofa. I bought it right before the pandemic. I swear to God, it got me sick when I first got it. And I mean, I love the upholstery, but girlfriend's gotta go. This was actually a random addition to my spot. It's actually just a telephone pole that my father cut down from our land at home. He just sent me a photo of it one day and I sent him measurements, and that's really it. Another thing I love about this apartment is my view. I have St. Paul's Church in front of me, and then a couple other historic buildings alongside Barrington here. And I just love seeing the old architecture. I'm quite fortunate with it not being a skyrise or another apartment building that I'd have neighbors that can look right on in. I love seeing this view at the sunset each night. And in the summer, I get direct sunlight until like 9 o'clock. This is another trunk that my grandfather actually did make. I do know that. And unfortunately, when I first moved to the city, I didn't realize that I couldn't iron my clothes on it, and I burnt the top. So we just cover that for now. But nonetheless, I love anything that has a patina to it, or at least an antique look. I love when things look worn in. So my mother actually bought me this book this year for Christmas, just because she knows how much I'm in love with old Halifax architecture. I think that a lot of these old buildings are just so much character to our city. But specifically in this book, I love it because this building here that I live in was built in 1875, I believe. And you can see in this painting here that it still exists to the day with the same exterior and everything. So we just live in right up here. So this chest here is actually one of my great-grandfather's. My father's had it for most of his life, and up until I was in university, when I took it, it was just holding Skidoo parts in the garage. This is where I have a lot of my winter and summer clothes that are on rotation, and a couple other junk items that I just can't get rid of. This is the most recent DIY that I've done. I wanted to do something on this wall. So I bought this light. I didn't hardwire it in, so there's just 2 LED light pucks on the inside. Now, they come with a trusty little remote. It doesn't give off the best light. It's more so just something to have for a stylistic approach to filling in the space. So there's something simple and I've always loved about them, and I don't know why, but Billy bookcases can solve so many problems. And originally I'd wanted a bar cart, but again, with there being absolutely no storage in here, I needed a bit more, something that I can actually put books in and other junk that I don't want people to see. But the best thing with this was that it was a floor model and I didn't have to build it, and you can just pay the delivery fee and get it brought right up the stairs. All I really did was just change up the hardware from a previous project that I had taken with me and put in the backlit lighting. It kind of gives it a bit more of a stylized look than just having a bookcase. And I mean, I just buy coffee table books. I mean, I'm not reading a hell of a lot. So I did have intentions on making a large gallery wall, but I have a problem of committing to art because I constantly switch things out. But these 2 images are from a local photographer, Nick Hudson. I love a lot of his shots, especially different perspectives downtown. Fun fact, this unit and the unit below throughout like the 1930s to 60s was a photography studio for Wallace McCaskill, who was a notable photographer in Nova Scotia for a lot of wildlife and marine life. So I know a lot of his work has been on Marketplace lately. If you see it, let me know, because I want to buy it and bring it home. So this is my kitchen here. As you can see, I have lovely white appliances. My favorite part is that the building towards the back is cladded in white, so it reflects all of the sunlight, especially sunsets, throughout the back here. So I actually get 2 sources of light, which is great. And I'd say that's kind of the only redeeming quality of this tight kitchen. So this is my bathroom, kind of tiny. So it was recently painted. It's Ciaran by Farrow & Ball. And then I threw up these shelves, and then this mirror was another Marketplace find. Same with a lot of the frames. Again, I've just collected them over time. But this is another Marketplace kind of Kijiji find that I'm absolutely obsessed with. I've had this for quite some time. You can see like my previous apartment, but more specifically, we are right in through here, I think. Yeah. So thanks for coming to see my apartment and all of my treasures. I've got to go paint something black. See ya.